We are 5 minutes past, so let's start. Welcome everyone. And this session will operate in the following way. We'll do some kind of mutual introduction, and then we'll go into open question and answers. Just write down your questions in the Q&A pane, and vote for the questions that you'd like answers for.
Okay, so we are ready to start, and we already have the first question from Jen. So the first question is, how do you guys integrate yourself with Azure Synapse? What is the story here?
Yes, once I finish the beginning, I'll start addressing the questions. So this session is being recorded for internal use, but please do not record the session yourself, and let's keep the Q&A pane. Please scan for questions that are already asked and upvote them, and don't re-enter additional questions that are the same. And if you can scan quickly the code of conduct, we have to show this. Okay, so today we have here quite a lot of folks from across engineering, product managers, people quite a few people from the product team, and we're here to answer questions in practically all domains of the product and the offering. My name is Uri Barash, and I'm the Group Program Manager for Azure Data Explorer. When people will answer questions, they will also introduce themselves. I do want to ask you folks to tell us a little bit about yourself. How familiar are you with the product? Deepak will make 2 announcements for those 2 answers. Please upvote them according to which group you think you fit better into. So here's the first post from Deepak. Yeah, please do vote for it, so we know how to spend time in this session. If we need more, a little bit more overview, or awesome. Please do keep vote, and we'll continue to a very short overview, and based on the upvotes, we'll decide what to do then. Awesome. So again, this session is about Azure Data Explorer. Ask us anything about Azure Data Explorer and how to build real-time analytics solution, IoT analytics, log analytics, etc. So just an overview to a very short overview to give context. Azure Data Explorer is an interactive analytics service for fast flowing data The purpose is to cut down time to insight, both by getting data very quickly into a queryable state and perform highly interactive queries on different angles of the data without requiring to modify the incoming data too much. So any future question that comes in could be addressed. The service is a fully managed service, a PaaS service, platform as a service on Azure with maintenance-free indexes and auto-scaling and the entire thing to make sure that you can create your own schema, your own databases, tables, etc., but have as little management overhead as you can running the service. And what we've seen both at Microsoft and with the external customers that already adopted Azure Data Explorer is that Azure Data Explorer creates and fosters a data-driven culture where a large portion of the knowledge workers can actually go touch the data themselves, ask questions about the data, and make data-driven decision that change how the organization deals with data. So one, again, I'll do this very quickly. At Microsoft, it was created as a repository for telemetry, very quickly adopted by all Microsoft services, including Windows and Office. All Windows and Office telemetry from all devices are going into Azure Data Explorer, but also all Azure services, including Azure SQL and Azure Storage and Data Warehouse and Cosmos DB, everyone storing their telemetry in Azure Data Explorer. In this journey, we've replaced quite a lot of Elasticsearch deployment, Sumo Logic, New Relic, Splunk, etc., usually generating about like 60–70% cost reduction on hardware spend, let alone licensing fees. And it's also being used at Microsoft very broadly for powering analytical solutions as a service in operational management, in all the security products that Microsoft are using Azure Data Explorer as a backend, very common in IoT with time series insights, IoT Central, the Microsoft Connected Vehicles platform for the connected vehicles scenarios, and gaming. More verticals are coming up with team education using it, and also in product insights as part of business application group. And since about like a year and 4 months ago, we launched it as a PaaS service on Azure, and we have quite a lot of customers. We see quite a lot of growth, and that's a very exciting journey. Two major categories of use cases. One is enterprise using it. Enterprise and companies are using Azure Data Explorer to create a telemetry and a framework for telemetry analytics, big data analytics around telemetry with time series, logs, events, all kind of transaction and activity data, being able to union a lot of those domains together and answer questions about the organization, how it deals with its customers, with its employees, with its devices, with its applications, etc. And we see ISVs building analytical solutions as a service that serve the same purpose as the first scenario, but as delivered as a vertical SaaS into those companies that I referred to earlier. Awesome. So I think I'll skip the demo now, and we'll probably do some of this as part of the Q&A. So let's start.
Okay, Uri, thank you for the overview, the short overview. Let's start with some of the questions. First of all, how do you guys integrate yourself with Azure Synapse, and what is the story there?
Awesome. So the teams are working together to integrate Azure Data Explorer and the underlying technology that is codenamed Custo into Synapse as another specialized engine in the Azure Synapse Analytics product. The strategy that we run on cloud scale analytics is to leverage the data lake as the shared place to store data and exchange data, and use the best of breed engines in order to deal with the needs of the specific workflow, the specific scenario. And we are very familiar with several patterns around cloud scale analytics. The first pattern that is very familiar is the modern data warehouse. In the modern data warehouse, you actually take data coming from a lot of sources, you aggregate it, you curated it into aggregate it into a well-curated data model that you've carefully crafted, and then you publish it and serve it usually via Power BI and other business analytics capabilities and enterprise apps. And the interesting things there is that the well-curated model is there to provide a very explicit, very well-defined view of the data that has a very clear semantics around it. In the other scenario, the real-time analytics scenario, we are actually not doing much ETL. We're actually taking the data in the row and storing it almost in the row. And then we can answer questions on this data regardless of how it was, how we designed the well-curated data model 3 months, 1 year, or even more before. We can look at the data from multiple angles and look at it in real time, not waiting for the ETL to finish. So Azure Data Explorer brings in the real data analytics capabilities into Synapse. I do not have timelines on when this is going to happen, but it's definitely something that the teams are working together towards. In the meanwhile, we definitely are integrated with the data lake very deeply. We are integrated with the ability to, from Azure Data Explorer, you can call out to Synapse using the SQL plugin, so you can join data from Synapse and data that's managed in Azure Data Explorer. And because Azure Data Explorer exposes a T-SQL endpoint, you can also do the other direction and join data from Azure Data Explorer into queries in Synapse SQL pool. Synapse also includes a Spark engine, and Azure Data Explorer has a Spark connector, so you can definitely run Spark jobs using the Spark connector on Azure Data Explorer managed and hosted data, pushing down predicates.
Great, thank you. So now it's a question to one of, for maybe Alex or Oded about the cause of the original name Cousteau. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of picking this name? Alex? Uri? Okay, Alex is on.
Yes. Okay.
Go ahead, Uri. Go ahead. It's fine.
No, Alex.
I'll leave myself to a technical questions. That's fine.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'll just jump in. Hi, this is Oded. I'm the engineering manager for Cousteau Azure Data Explorer, and together with Alex and 2 other friends, we've started that as a startup within Microsoft about 6 or 7 years ago. The name Cousteau was chosen, I don't know, 4 days into the project. We looked for a code name that somehow represents the fact that it's used for exploring the ocean of data. We looked for many explorers. We came up with Jacques-Yves Cousteau, who is a famous deep sea explorer, also invented the modern scuba diving sports, and from there we slightly changed the name to be spelled short, like in a shorter version instead of the French spelling, which has lots of characters in it. So that's the origin of the name. That's it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Oded.
So thank you, Oded. Okay, now next question. This is more a theoretical question. What kind of uptake are you seeing from ADX? It doesn't seem promoted much by Microsoft.
Let me address this. So, in general, we are seeing a very strong uptake for Azure Data Explorer. We've seen that it actually surprised us when we were when this product was being offered internally at Microsoft. We were actually surprised that it keeps growing very, very quickly. Even at Microsoft, when we thought we exhausted the growth opportunity in Microsoft, and we are actually seeing this also externally. Only a year out, and we already have like quite a lot of Fortune 500 companies using it very extensively. We are seeing strong growth, nearly double-digit on a month-by-month basis. We see other patterns. We have noticed that the usage of Azure Data Explorer, it's actually funny in this period and time, it's actually pretty viral. So when people start using Azure Data Explorer, initially they talk about, oh, we need to learn another query language, oh, this is new, or we are not familiar with this. Very quickly we see companies adopting it very broadly, and people are falling in love with the ability to write short, expressive and queries that have strong IntelliSense and a lot of power in reaching data. There is a lot of there are quite a few companies that have moved wholesale to manage all their operations and all their activity logs based on Azure Data Explorer. So the uptake is great. Yes, definitely. The portion of the messaging is not. It's pretty hard to control how like the big Microsoft messaging is communicating out, but we can tell you that like in the with our field and sales force across the globe, we're seeing a huge uptake, and we're also seeing a lot of strong competitive successes with the main competition.
Thank you, Uri. Okay, so next question is from Javier. How large is the user base, both for internal and external?
So it's actually that's a great question. It's actually it depends on if you're talking about like the KQL ecosystem, or you're talking about Azure Data Explorer as a standalone data service. For the KQL ecosystems, including Azure Monitor, Application Insights, and Log Analytics, and Windows Defender, and Microsoft Defender Advanced Threat Protection, and the Azure Sentinel, which is a new product that was launched last year as well. We're seeing it's a little bit hard to measure, but it's I think that's very close to 1 million KQL users by now. So the ecosystem is growing, and it's growing very, very fast. In terms of Azure Data Explorer as a data service, it's being adopted by developer teams and operation teams across the globe, and I don't want to name like specific numbers, but we definitely have already within a year thousands of data platform deployments across the globe. So yeah, it's picking up really nicely.
Great. And now there is a question about the query language, which is Cousteau query language. Can you explain, maybe Alex, can you explain a little bit about KQL?
Yes. What is the question?
What is the query language to explore with Azure Data Explorer, and why don't we use SQL?
Okay, so the Cousteau query language is conceptually a functional SQL, meaning that you get a table and you pipe it as Unix pipes with operators, and that's how you actually transform the data. It's link style functional language that allows easier development than comparing to SQL. The query you write it from top to down, and actually it looks like a story. You take the table, you throw some rows, then you aggregate, you get a table. Much easier to understand and read from our experiences, also from customers on these chats that used it, gave a feedback that it's much easier than SQL. We provide a strong IntelliSense just because the language is supported, is built for the IntelliSense. You can pipe and you see all the options. It's very powerful in terms of operators. However, we also provide a SQL functionality or subset of SQL functionality for the legacy tools. So when connecting to Cousteau, you can just write the queries using the SQL language and use select and aggregations and like this. We also support on the protocol level the TDS, means that you don't need a special driver. You can use still the ODBC, JDBC drivers and connect legacy tools. That's the reason that we also export SQL. However, in our belief, in our customer feedback provides that the KQL is much superior in terms of what functionality you can do. You can process text, regular expressions, extracting. That's for unstructured text processing. We support dynamic types, which are not present at all in SQL. It's for semi-structured data. You can work with the properties, bags. You can expand them. You can unwrap them and do aggregations on top of them. And we, of course, also support the numbers, all different types, from doubles, decimals for currency support. So in that sense, I think the KQL, like I said, is superior on top of SQL language. And that's the reason that I strongly recommend using it for all scenarios that you can. There is also a possibility to actually bind the two of them and wrap the all sophisticated logic with Python integration inside and do even the machine learning scoring, and still call it from the legacy tools by wrapping this logic into a stored procedure and saving on the server side and just invoking it through the T-SQL. So you can actually combine the best of two worlds. Have the strong logic, very complex logic embedded into stock query language and invoke it using the SQL, if that helps. Hope it was clear enough.
I want
Thank
to pile on this. I want to pile on this and say a few things. First, like Alex mentioned, T-SQL, the version of SQL that we support is T-SQL. And moreover, we support the binary protocol that's called TDS, the SQL Server Binary Protocol. So this is why you can actually connect to ADX databases via ODBC, JDBC, etc. So it's actually protocol level compatibility. You can think about it as a read-only SQL server from these direction. The other point that I wanted to make on this like super important question is that we've run a few workshops where we converted large numbers of queries from SQL to KQL. What we've found is that typically the size of the query shrinks to about a third and it becomes dramatically more readable. So that's just like learnings from the conversions that we've run.
Thank you, Uri. And now, actually, I think it's a question for Manoj. In which scenarios we have to use Azure Data Explorer in the IoT solution?
I'll take that. Hey, this is Manoj here. I'm a product manager with Azure Data Explorer team. So in IoT solutions, typically you would use Azure Data Explorer for analytics scenarios where you want to get real-time or near real-time insights on your IoT devices, specifically from multiple devices. Let's say your edge is kind of sending data to Azure. It could go to Kafka endpoint of Event Hub or IoT Hub. And then we can stream from there automatically into Azure Data Explorer and make it available for you to query. So mostly you would use our platform for building IoT analytics applications.
Thank you. One more question here is about the relationship between Log Analytics and Azure Data Explorer. Some of the audience are surprised that they are already using ADX without their knowing about that. So, Oded, maybe you can answer about the relationship between the two services. Uri, please take it.
Great. So yeah, Azure Monitor Log Analytics application insights is actually built for all the analytics scenarios on Azure Data Explorer. They are one of they are a large user of the service, and they are running numerous deployments globally of Azure Data Explorer, providing a multi-tenant layer on top of Azure Data Explorer. When we are provisioning an Azure Data Explorer resource, we're actually provisioning dedicated resources for the database user. Azure Monitor provides an end-to-end solution as a service, an analytical SaaS in the domain of operational management for managing services, servers, desktops, applications, and dealing with their telemetry. Azure Monitor also have a lot of solutions. For example, out-of-the-box ready UI for container insights, for VM insights, for many other services in Azure, computers, etc. So in that sense, Azure Monitor delivers tons of value in collecting the data seamlessly and providing out-of-the-box visualizations and alerts on top of the data. The underlying technology is Azure Data Explorer. It's the same engine, it's the same query processor, it's the same storage, and moreover, because we are sharing the same technology, we know how to cross-query and join and correlate data across Azure Monitor workspaces and ADX provisioned clusters, so you can practically have a single data estate across your Sentinel, Azure Monitor, and ADX deployments.
Okay, thanks for that. There are more and more questions about Synapse integration. So you described the way the current status that we are working with Synapse to make integration, but actually the audience asking, it seems that ADX doesn't need Synapse for ETL because ADX itself can perform extraction, transformation, visualization, and external collectors. Is it correct, or what is the value by integrate both services?
That's a very good question. The important thing is when we are looking at the different workloads in the enterprise world, there are workloads that need specific type of processing and handling. For example, the two technologies, the two engines provide different value, and those two values are very, very important and separate. For example, financial reporting, we definitely recommend that financial reporting is being performed on a well-curated data mart that represent the reality of the financial system for a company, and therefore, like, loading that information, ETLing it carefully into a well-curated data model is the right approach. For data that needs to that you need to be able to look at from different angles and potentially also in real time, then Azure Data Explorer provides a better, most cost-efficient capability. In many cases, you actually do want to cross-correlate between the two things. For example, when you want to compare, like, the performance and, for example, let's think about it this way, like, how much revenue did we have from one customer, and what was his SLA in terms of what the service that are the service that we're building in this case was providing to him. We might want to do this analysis. So in that sense, they are integrated, but they are there to provide different value in different workloads. As we are moving to provide a single analytics integrated offering, we definitely see them providing those values together.
Wonderful, thanks. So the audience agreed that Azure Data Explorer Custode is one of the most best kept secret, and it's awesome. Thank you for that. One more question about tools. Is there any tool that will allow me to schedule real-time transformation job in ADX itself? ADF isn't optimized for ADX. Avner, you can take that. No, Avner. Okay, Alex? Yes, Avner is here. Take it.
No, Tzvia, you need to repeat the question. I was doing some comments.
So it's actually about real-time transformation over the data. The audience asking about options, how to run it over ADX, since ADF doesn't provide them the real time response. Update policy.
Yes. So the built-in mechanism for that is something that we call update policy, where you can define a query that data that is being ingested and the result of this query is written to a different table, to another table of your choosing. And that allows different weather transformations, filtering, and any other logic parsing and things like that that you want to do. The main thing to note here is that the query runs on top of the data that is ingested in the specific ingestion command. So it doesn't have the scope of a time scope or any other type of scopes that you can think about, but only the scope of the data that was ingested in a single command. Yes, Leah, go ahead.
Thank you for that. Next, a question by when importing rows to ADX. I think this question should go to Alex. Okay, Alex, I see that you already prompt your questions, your answer. Please share with the other audience.
Okay, so the question was if it's possible to configure or ingest the data in ADX so it will be idempotent, meaning that if the same operation repeated twice, the data will be added only once. So yes, there is such option. I've posted in the chat a reference to the docs. It's called ingest by tags. It allows you to mark specific operation with a tag. For example, you replaying the whole partition of a data for a specific hour, or a specific hour you want to mark it as such. So that's possible. However, you should not, like, there are some caveats. You should not be using a very different ingest by tags as it will actually just overload the metadata. So I posted the document link into the chat. Please read it and feel free to reach us for more questions.
By the end of the session, we will share some emails and communication way to reach us directly. Okay, in the meanwhile, one more question. Uri, does Azure Data Explorer connects or expose application insight metrics?
I'm not sure that I understand the question. It can connect to application insights.
I think the question is about, if I understand it correctly, it's like if we expose metrics into Azure Application Insights or log analytics. That's how I translate it.
Yeah,
I think that there are two aspects here. One is, can we? There are multiple ways here. Like, can we look at the metrics from our ADX clusters in Azure Monitor Application Insights, and alternatively, can we query from Azure Data Explorer over metric values in Azure Monitor Application Insight metrics? The current answer for that is that you can query over logs in Application Insights, but not over the metrics emitted to Azure Monitor, if that answers the question.
Okay, Ian, if you didn't answer your question, please share a new one. If so, we can continue. The next one. If I own an ADX cluster, my cluster can get unhealthy if a user submits an heavy queries. Are there any plans to add user-level throttling?
Avner, do you want to take it or want me to take it?
Yeah, this is a question for Avner.
Go for it, Alex. Go for it.
Okay, so yes, we consider like all our next steps exactly in this area. Right now, what is possible to do is there are few levels how you as a cluster owner can control what's happening on the cluster level, and we are considering to add more of those. Right now, it's not on the user level perspective, but it's definitely one of the areas that we look how we can invest. So I would be happy if we can connect offline to talk about your scenario, to understand a little bit more, to understand just if what we are building will match what expectations are. So please use the link after the meeting where you can find us and we can discuss it offline.
Okay, in the middle, Uri, can you put the contact details of our team on the screen? I think people are asking for it. Thank you. Is Azure Time Series Insight still invested in? Is it built on this platform?
I think Manoj is best to answer this.
Yes, this question is direct to Manoj, exactly. Manoj.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Is the Azure Time Series Insight still invested in? Is it built on this platform?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So I did respond to that on the chat window. So yeah, TSI is still invested in. It offers an end-to-end solution that is built on Azure Data Explorer and their cold store, which is on ADLS. So basically, it offers an end-to-end out-of-box solution. So if you want to use a solution which is pre-built and you just want to do plug and play, then TSI would be a good choice. If you want to build your own solution, want full control on the data model, the database, the retention and the caching policies and all the integration with big data, then you would go choose ADX to build your custom solution. So I hope I answered the question. If there are any follow-up, please post a new question and we'll take it from there.
Thanks, Manoj. Can ADX, Azure Data Explorer, codename Cousteau, query Cosmos chain feed? Uri,
Yeah,
would you like to take it?
It's for Manoj as well. I think Manoj is the best one.
Manoj.
Yeah. So today, the Cosmos change feed, you can pipe it to Event Hub, and from Event Hub we can read it. And there are some other options that we are exploring. We're not ready to share other information, but right now the current option is through Event Hub, and then we'll expose more options for you in the future.
Follow-up question about TSI is about storage. Speaking of Azure TSI, it seems like they are using ADX for the warm path, warm storage, and use ADLS for cold storage. Is it that because ADLS has a cheaper storage?
Let me take this. Let me take this, Via. That's a wonderful question. Azure Data Explorer uses blob storage, and blob storage and ADLS Gen 2 are practically one and the same with different APIs. The TSI and also ADX are using blob storage for storing ADLS blob storage for storing the cold stored data, and TSI has built like kind of like separate implementation of the cold storage. We are currently working with this TSI team to make take this architecture to the next phase. I think that the what happened over the last year is that in Azure Data Explorer, we introduced the concept of external tables. Until then, we were able to store both hot and cold data in the optimized Azure Data Explorer Cousteau format on both SSD and in blob storage, providing both cold and hot memory layers for accessing data. Recently, last summer, we added the ability to query data in its native form in the lake, which is what TSI was doing for cold data, and now we are merging those implementations. The advantage, like when we're looking at like how to deal with cold data that we don't want to pay for the amount of SSD needed in order to cache it in hot data, there are like you can store it in its native format in the lake, for example, Parquet or Orc or whatever, and you can store it within ADX in the optimized format with the special indexes, etc. Naturally, the ADX storage is more efficient, but there is value in storing data in a very open format in the lake if you want other tools to be able to scan and operate on it. So TSI chose like about a year and a half ago to build this like ability to store data in open format in the lake. And now when ADX supports massive queries over data in its native format in the lake, then we are merging those architectures. It also answers the question, are we investing in TSI? Yes, we're working together closely to take TSI to the next level in terms of scalability, compatibility, etc. Yes, definitely.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Uri. So we kept the last question for the end, and actually I really like this one. What are he asked for one or two, but we can share more upcoming features that customers should be excited about? So I think that each of us will answer with one or two of the biggest features that we are doing. Avner, would you like to start? Adi, you first.
I can start with there is so many exciting features that are coming. Some of them is still we're still working hard on them, and we're not talking about them. So you should keep engaged, as we say. But we recently released multiple very exciting features in preview. One of them is a partitioning policy that allows to do partitioning of the data in the background, and that improves the query performance significantly. We added the support for geospatial, the very deep support, and with great demos, so you can check out the posts. We are working on dashboarding experiences and ingestion, great experience for ingestion, and many other things that are coming. So there are more things that are in the cooking that we still are not exposing. So please, like I said, keep engaged. Anybody else?
Yes, Avner, thank you. No, Adi.
Maybe I can just add, this is Adi, I'm in charge of machine learning and time series. We just added ability to score models that were prepared in Azure Machine Learning or other external tools. So using inline Python in ADX, you can actually train the model outside and then score it within IDX on data that is coming in real time.
Great. Would you like also to elaborate on autoscale that you are working on?
Yes, this is actually a technology that we are building to make ADX elastic and enable the cluster to scale in or out automatically based on usage patterns, actually scaling to save cost. And
This is based on actually forecasting capability that we have, and it's available for every user. It's a function for forecasting time series. We forecast what's going to be the usage in the next 24 hours, whether it's usage for query or usage for ingestion. And based on this, if we see, for example, that it's going to be very silent in the next 12 hours, we automate scale in, and if we see that we expect some spikes or heavy load, we scale out. That's something that's still been working, and it's going to be released in a matter of a few weeks.
Additional thing that is coming in is that the Azure Data Explorer technology is actually pretty mature in terms of the compute engine, the performance characteristics, the power capabilities. Over the last 2 years, we've worked extremely hard to make it a public-facing, or 3 years, a public-facing Azure service. And one of the things is the management experience. We are working to improve the management experience, the advice that we give as part of Azure Advisors, as part of the monitoring. We are working to improve that aspect constantly. For example, like giving advice on whether to switch a compute SKU or to make other adjustments to configuration and settings.
Okay, so actually we got to the end of the session. I think that you can all see the communication details that you can reach all and each one of us for further information. This is only the beginning of this friendship, and the entire Azure Data Explorer product group is here to provide more information, to assist, and to hear your voice. Uri, one last word before we are ending.
Thanks, Via. No, it's a pleasure, and it's great to see the engagement. I guess that you're here because you can that you have experienced like the unique value that the product delivers, or you can appreciate it. Please help us share the word and get people make people aware of the offering. We have a Twitter handle where we publish like everything that goes live, our blog location on tech communities, and in Stack Overflows are very active. So definitely share and engage with us both on social and directly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This was a session Ask the Team about Azure Data Explorer. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and enjoy the rest of the day and build experience. One last thing about the demo, I will post you a link to the demo.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.